All right, we are live, and we have one reaction already coming in. That's pretty cool. Hey everyone that's tuning in right now. I'm Liz Beecroft, the founder of Mentl, and today we have my friend Amir Berry here, who is the founder of By Idle Hours, well, Idle Hours on Instagram as By Idle Hours. An amazing brand that is really working to build better bridges with people. Through journaling. And so I am here with my friend, and we're going to be talking about cognitive coping, emotional regulation, and management, and how journaling is a good tool for all of this kind of stuff. So, what's up, Amir? How are you?
Another day in quarantine, right?
Yeah. How are you holding up? How's everything going in Philly? Based in Philly.
Yeah.
You're born and raised in Philly too?
No, I was raised in Jersey.
Okay.
Um,
Yep. It froze.
so I've been over here, a good amount for the most part. So, I didn't move until recently, which it took me forever, but I'm glad I made the jump because I don't know, Jersey things just kind of, stand still for the most part. So I knew I needed to get here and be closer to people, build more relationships, and just kind of get back to the city.
Yeah, no, I mean for sure, and I know you're definitely doing that. And I connected, when I guess last
Yeah,
August, last even maybe before August, probably last summer.
yeah. It was like the end of July, going into August. Yeah, I had just like released Safe Space, and I was on the P's and Q's with Instagram, and I was just like checking our messages, and I noticed you, and I was like, "Who's this?" Click on your page, and first thing I see is like mental health advocate. I'm like, "Oh, that's cool, tight." I was like, maybe, she could be like the first person I end up sending one of these to. And yeah, I just kind of reached out, and you answered immediately. I was like, "Cool, cool." And it just kind of aligned with everything that was to come afterwards.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Well, it was funny because we actually had some mutual friends at the time too. It was really cool. Um,
Right.
so, and being that you're from, well, you're based out of Philly, which is pretty much my home city that I call and I claim as my home city because I'm from about an hour north, but it's the closest.
Right. 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 Right.
So no, it was cool, and I was like, this guy has like a really cool mission. He's doing something like in the scope of trying to make mental health more accessible and more what's the word I'm looking for? We had this issue the other night we were talking. I can't think of like the right words sometimes, but I
Yeah.
guess make mental health
One
resonate.
word.
Or
Right.
yeah, like make it more down to earth and sensible, especially for people who we were talking like just seeing people at the same parties that we would go to and like that kind of
Right.
mentality of you know being able to provide really cool resources and creative resources for people in the communities that we are also involved in, and that's really dope. So, share with us,
Yeah.
I guess, what prompted you to start Idle Hours. Oh, we're froze. Oh, we're good.
I guess it's probably a combination of my ideals on time and also just understanding that sometimes you have to jump into something that makes you excited
Mm-hmm.
in order to uplift other areas you're working in. I don't know. I just feel like last year, especially, or going into last year, I just felt like overwhelmed. I'm a piece of, five different things, right? And then it's like I have no time to do anything that I want, right? So, um, Idle Hours was originally out of office, because of a mindset. I was just like, I'm checking out, like I'm focusing on, things I want to do. And at the time, I really didn't even know what that was, right? It was just like, I just want to make sure that I'm making the most out of all of my time.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Idle Hours just kind of stemmed from that in a sense. So,
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of just like finding out, kind of like looking in and seeing what areas you'd like to see more of and creating that for yourself because you weren't feeling fulfilled in whatever of those, you know, aspects, I guess you could say. Is that, would you say?
yeah.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it's like you feel fulfilled, but it's also like you're just like, I need something for me. And that's just like the reality. And then it kind of, I'm still going into it like, damn, I don't know what this is gonna be, but um, I ended up last summer having just like mentally, I just wasn't having a good, time.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, I should start journaling. And I was looking around and, nothing really stuck out to me. I was like, these are kind of corny, blah, blah, blah. So I was like, well, I guess I just have to make one, like specifically catered to what I wanted it to do.
Yeah.
And then like halfway through the process, I'm like, wow, other people could probably use this too, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like one of those things. And yeah, so that's when I decided, all right, I'm going to tie this to Idle Hours, and that'll be the first project out of the building that is Idle Hours.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it.
That's super dope and super respectable because, similar to like how I kind of started doing, whatever it is that I'm doing, I guess, mixing streetwear, sneakers, and mental health all together,
Right.
you know,
Right.
before I started doing all that, it was, really just more about me like on Instagram trying to portray this image that was only maybe 50% of who I was, and so I had to take a step back and kind of figure out what kind of creative outlet I needed. Being that this is, a lot about mental health, I wanted to ask you a little bit more like what signs and symptoms did you really recognize, in yourself that you felt like, okay, I need to, explore maybe starting my own project on the side because I'm not feeling something that I want to feel.
Uh, I guess just like you have that like feeling or want to do more,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's just not coming. You don't know what it is. And then you get to these periods where you feel like you're forcing it, or you're putting all of the exercise, the mental exercise, into something else that's not yours,
Mm-hmm.
right? So that kind of leaves your side empty, and that's pretty much where I ended up.
That whole idea of just like owning something and like being able to be like, I created
Yeah,
this, and this is my baby, and like
that
I
is,
did this.
yeah,
And there's a lot to say about
yeah,
that. Like that's so powerful, and I think that is like, at the end of the day, I know Brene Brown, she talks a lot about just like having side hustles because it's so important to have something that is 100% yours, that you can, continue to find that motivation and that creativity, and just have something to take ownership of because you know that helps us feel, it helps us so much on so many different levels, just like building confidence, social connections, gaining support from other people, and kind of building our support systems in general, and just feeling, feelings of motivation, confidence, fulfillment in general. So I think it's really dope to hear stories like yours that, like I just wasn't feeling like I was doing enough, and I went out and I did it, and here we are, and
yeah.
because of it now we're
Right, yeah,
friends, and that's really cool. So, um,
yeah, yeah, sure, yeah,
hell yeah. But
yeah.
all right. So I guess what about journaling is it for you? Like, what does journaling do for you that you find that was like your go-to coping skill, I guess you can say. Because, journaling is a great tool for mental health. There's so many other ones, but specifically that's where you decided to start. And what about it?
Right.
I want to know. I'm curious.
Uh, yeah, I mean, it creates it creates like, in a sense, like a gallery for your brain, right? So all day I have thoughts, ideas, frustrations, everything under the sun, just in my head, going all day on loop, right? And you know, when you think about a brain in like the terms of like a machine, like that's just a lot of information cycling through. So you're like, how could you possibly grab one of those things when they roll by and like decipher it and then send it on its way? It doesn't work that way, right? So it's
like thought.
being able to write, yeah, it's like, so like being able to write it down is powerful in the sense that you can now stare at it face to face, right? You're looking at it and you read it, and then you go do whatever you have to do, and then you come back to it later on that day, maybe even a month later, and you're like, damn, I don't even feel like that anymore, right? It's like now, or it's like, oh wow, I really made progress to changing this, or whatever the case may be. It's just like, it's cool to see, just to see it, and it's not anything like extravagant, because like in reality, like I hate writing, like, but I hate writing as much as I hate running, but I do both because, just figuring out that specific thing, it's like a puzzle every day. Running, it's like something new every day. My ankles won't loosen up, so I gotta figure that out. Calves are tight, this, that, and the third. And like with writing, it's like you get blocks.
Yeah.
And sometimes one word is plenty to describe your emotion at that time. It doesn't always have to be like, dear diary,
Yeah.
today I was, it's just like you swing on a page and you see it and you go, annoyed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just let it sit there. And you stare at it and you're like, why am I annoyed? And you write a couple more words. Or you draw something. But either way, it's a stream of consciousness. And it all ends up to you kind of getting a little bit closer to where you're supposed to be.
Yeah.
So that's why I like journaling in that sense. But in the sense of like, my English teacher being excited that I like to write,
Yeah.
that's not really a lie. Because I don't.
No, I love it because, like, as powerful as our brains are, and unfortunately we're not able to consume and keep all of that information
No.
at our ready. Like, that's why we have a short-term and a long-term memory, because we have so many thoughts about so many different things and that come and go in our minds every single second of every single day. And to be able to like remember everything, it's impossible. So it's so cool to like have a tool. And I love that you pointed out the fact that it's not just, a Dear Diary type of situation. You can really go in there and write whatever the heck you want. You can even draw in your journal. I think it's, like you said, it's just a tool to get your consciousness out there concretely on paper. And it's there, and it lives there, and then you can go away and do something else, and you can come back, and it's still going to be there. Whereas,
still going to be there.
Yeah, and it's so powerful because, I think a lot of times anxiety gets brought on because I can talk about this personally is, I have so much every day in my to-do list between, like I was talking to you a little bit about what was going on today before we jumped on here. But just like with my to-do list every day between working and everything else going on, I'm trying to remember like 100 different things, and it's hard. And so for me, like one of the tools that I like to do is, keeping a to-do list in general, just to write it down, cross it off. And even with your journal, like you can do that. But trying to remember every single thought that comes into our head is really anxiety provoking because you can't remember it. And then you want to go back and try and remember something. And then because you can't remember it, it makes you feel worried that something's wrong with you or, something's going on. And it actually provokes more anxious thoughts. So
Right.
it's great to just be able to have somewhere to get them out. Happy, sad, mad, whatever it may be. I think there doesn't always have to be a prompt, although prompts are definitely helpful. We'll get into those in a little bit, but it's cool that you mentioned this. So like, how long, I guess, would you say, like, have you been journaling? Is this like a new thing for you? Is it something you've been doing for a really long time?
So journaling, I would say not long at all. Like literally last summer.
Cool.
However, I've always been able to have like a notebook or something that I would just like doodle emotions because I'm like an awful like I can't draw, but like I can doodle,
Yeah.
you know, with the best of them, right? So like, you know, it would turn out with like doodles, and I would just like write random words, you know, like words that associated with each other, and you know, kind of figuring out what those words mean, why I might feel that way. So I've always been doing variations of it, but like not specifically journaling, because I mean, you know, I come from this generation where a journal was like something your sister had.
Mm-hmm.
It was pink. You know, it
Had the fluffy pen.
the fluffy pen and or the passcode that only her voice could open. You know, like that was the life. You know, so it's like nobody was journaling except Doug, right?
Yeah. I have a
But like
question
Doug made it cool.
fit with this topic. I'm putting it right here. Colin asks, that's a great point. Growing up, did you have the typical diary, quote unquote?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, Doug did. Did you have a diary, like, other than notebooks and stuff like that, where you kept all your thoughts, or was it?
No. Well, I guess kind of, because I used to write like random short stories about my day, in a sense. When I was younger, my mom used to make us read a chapter of Nancy Drew when we got in from school, before we went outside, anything like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Now, Nancy Drew was like the biggest pump fake because the covers are amazing, crazy illustrated, top notch font, you know, whatever. And then you open it and it's just words, right? And like, I'm constantly reading chapters about this girl's like misadventures and this, that, and the third. And it's like, wow, like, this is what she's doing. My life's pretty interesting too, you know, like, let me play around, write some bull, you know what I mean? But yeah, I mean, that's like the root of it. Yeah.
It's funny, I'm thinking back, I definitely had one of those stereotypical diaries, and probably, like, it was very much like Clarissa Explains It All, like, where I just, like, wrote who my crushes were at the time. Like, I remember one of them had, like, a passcode, lock and key, so it's always the idea of, like, diaries, right, are very private, very lock and key, no one else can see, only yours.
Mhm.
Which is cool because, you know, similar to that, like, journals, unless you really take them with you to therapy and talk about what you write with your therapist, or, you know, maybe you share it with your friend, but at the end of the day, that's something that's only yours, that you can't, you have the right to share with other people, and it's like the HIPAA compliant coping skill, essentially. But
Yeah.
it's cool because I think, you know, it really just helps you own something. Whereas, like, you know, we go on social media these days, like, everyone sees that stuff. We rarely have spaces for ourselves that are safe, you know, like,
Right.
and a journal is one of those spaces for us, which is cool.
Exactly. Exactly.
Ariel says, Ariel Foxy is coming on this month. Let me slide it over here. He said, your sister's either had a journal or a slam book. I always thought I was journaling wrong, so I put it off until a few years ago. Which is, you know,
Slam books are real, big time. I've seen. I have three sisters. one that's older than me, and then two younger. And then, yeah, I mean, I've seen plenty slam books, plenty, journals, this, that, and the third. And it's always the same stuff. Today, blah, 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 didn't talk to me. I literally have the worst life, It's like, yeah, yeah. But that's what I always thought journaling was, just that in specific.
And
So,
yeah, and I think growing up too, like in pop culture, how it's always like kind of portrayed is like it,
yeah.
like the girl cartoons that like Helga Pataki, who has like her shrine of Hey Arnold. It's always about like love or
Right,
like mushy gushy stuff. You rarely see it um, portrayed in a way of like just helping you process emotions and feelings. And also shout out
right.
to your mom for the whole making you read Nancy Drew chapters because that's really dope. And I wish my parents
So,
would have made me read stuff more.
it's like, my mom is literally like, she's been like that for as long as I can remember, just with like little tasks like that. But she's like also one of those people that like never really gets enough of learning.
Yeah.
Like if she could go to school forever, she would. She just finished her master's, and like she's like, oh yeah, well I'm gonna go back, and I'm like, okay, like Meanwhile, I'm over here like, there's not a chance in hell that I'm ever gonna step foot back into it. But teach their own. But yeah, she was always huge on like reading and taking in words that you didn't understand, didn't know, things like that. So I guess that kind of left an imprint. Something that I hated turned into, you know,
Definitely.
full circle. That's how it goes.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's talk a little bit more about idle hours.
Right.
Where did you get the name, or what did idle hours how did that name kind of be solidified for the brand?
So that was not as easy as, it now seems. It was annoying, to be honest. It like sucked. I was, really set on running with this out of office mantra, and I got two chains made. One of which is here. I got like kimonos, that were embroidered, this, that, and the third. Like I was rolling. I was rolling.
Uh,
We just started seeing the name everywhere, and that's how it goes, right? So I went on this long thing where I'm sending a couple of my buddies. Shout out to shout out to Ian Shiver and Nick Massarelli, Saeed, because I was sending them names all the time. Like, yo, just like literally different variations of out of office. Some of which were absolutely awful. Some of which didn't make any sense. Uh, Idle hours just kind of like popped up like in the middle of the day, and I brought it up, and Saeed literally said, "Oh yeah, run it."
how much time
And
did
that was
it
it.
take?
That was it. That's how it went. Yeah, he said run that. I was like, yeah. So we started playing around with some fonts. Again, shout out to Nick because he helped a lot in that process because I was lost. I just didn't know. It's like, how do you choose a font for a logo? It's got to be something that stands out, but also kind of explains me in a sense. So it was definitely a process, but idle hours stuck. I'm glad. I love it. It definitely fits me more at this stage opposed to out of office. So yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's one of the biggest things too. I think as a consumer, when you're looking at a any type of brand or any the marketing and the branding and everything behind it that goes into it is something that I think helps us align with something. And for me, like when you had reached out to me, that's how I felt. I was like, wow, like he gets it. Like for the longest time, and part of the reason why this whole platform of Mentl even exists is because I just didn't find anything in the mental health space that fully resonated with me as far as branding goes, to be quite honest. You know, like there's a lot of great information out there, but the way it was just being delivered, it just wasn't a fit for me. And I think it's cool to have something that's like relevant to people who are like us and into similar things that we're into, to be able to go to, you know, idle hours and be like, wow, this journal's dope. Like, I actually want to carry it around with me, because who wants to carry a, you know, some of the journals that just don't look like us or look like something we'd be into. So that's totally cool. Also, for anyone tuning in the description under here, there's a link to Amir's Instagram, Idle Hours' Instagram, and the website as well, so you can get a look at these journals and see for yourself how dope the branding is. Yeah, and it's super clean, super minimalistic, and something that is so easy to just like throw in your bag, carry it around with you, have it at all times, and it doesn't scream "I'm a journal." Like, it's very subtle and just discreet, and I the prompts, everything. It's just done so nicely. So shout out to you, Amir, because you crushed it with this, and I'm so excited to see what else you're working on, or what you're working on for the future.
Right.
So I know you're also a very big advocate for mental health awareness, mental health in general. What drives your passion, you know, to advocate and to be someone who, especially a male, you know, like guys don't talk about that stuff. So I'm always going to be cheerleading for you, because you're someone who's really a voice for all the guys.
Yeah, so as while I haven't always been somebody that talked about, you know, feelings and this, that, and the third, I've always been very reserved in that sense, right? I always had, like growing up, I always had a lot of energy and a lot of ideas and thoughts, that people were always like, oh, what's he talking about? You know, blah, 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 you know. So it's like, oh, that's not even an idea. What is that? So naturally, you know, you start to take that in. You get to a period where you're older and you're just like, nah, this idea is not going to stick, because everybody, you know, people have been the same ideas for whatever my whole life, right? So, yeah, for me, it was just like, wow, I have this thing now, you know, this idea, and here I am, and I've been through so much growing up. You know, I've seen a lot. I always feel like I've been like cursed in the sense of being able to see things for what they were at an early age, opposed to just kind of being that normal kid that's just like aloof, you know. But yeah, so I mean, I've seen so much, and I felt like I just internalized it, right? And it literally wasn't until probably like 3 or 4 years ago that I sat down and I really decided to try to unpack it on my own, right? But not like go at it, you know, full steam, but kind of just like pick out certain traits, you know, that I noticed, like, you know, like emotional like detachment and things like that, and like trying to figure out, okay, here's this negative thing, how can I flip it to detach from things that aren't necessary, things like, you know, like that male machismo, you know, like the whole, like, you know, and just like that mentality of pride, you know, like I was like, I can try to detach from those opposed to detach from people that are in my life, right? So I was able to do things like that, and through that, you know, like that process and like being where I am now, like it's honestly pretty insane, that I was able to get here, and I'm definitely thankful for it. So, you know, since I have this knowledge and, you know, this platform in a sense, like not a huge platform, but, you know, people know who I am at this point in Philadelphia, right? Just from being at P's and Q's, right? So it's like, all right, well, why not use this time to kind of spread this message? Because you quickly find out that you're not the only person thinking this stuff.
Yeah.
You know, not everybody is, that type of person where they can just hop in and just like, oh, I'm going to run with this because it's, that's a lot. That's a lot to deal with, and a lot comes with that. So, I definitely just want to help as much as I can
Mm-hmm.
and, build those bridges that need to be built to other people, right? So I was able to build a bridge for myself to be able to stand on, but the bridge isn't finished, right?
Yeah.
But every time I kind of extend and build a bridge to someone else, it gets a little bit longer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of where I'm at mentally. So, if I can push it, I'm going to push it, and I'm not going to be like overly, you need to do this and that, this, that, and the third, but I want it to be available and I want it to be an option and I want it to be something that, you can look at and think about, okay, this is making me think a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't need to reach out to them and say, dude, you're killing it. But I saw it, it's in my mental, and now I can take it and kind of run with it, right?
Yeah.
Because, I guess the best inspiration is always the one that, like, you don't know about, right? Like, the one you don't know about, and, like, you don't know you're inspiring other people. So
Yeah.
it's
Yeah.
kind of like a game in that sense, yeah.
And just also like leading by example, like teaching people how
Yeah,
to really just focus and hone in on meaningful conversations and, how we can support one another and that it's okay, to talk about these topics. It's okay to talk about mental health. You don't have to always be, putting on a front, for whatever reason. It's okay because at the end of the day, we all have mental health, good or bad, and we're all feeling, and our feelings range just every day. We can start the day in a high and end in a low, and vice versa. And it's okay to talk about it. It's okay to ask people for support, and it's cool to see people like you in these spaces just doing just that and sharing that it's okay to do all that and show that being vulnerable actually inspires a lot of people and hopefully that continues to inspire more people and
yeah,
keep that kind of way of going because it's cool to see. But yeah, with journaling and one of the things that I titled this sesh, journaling for emotional regulation and cognitive coping. And
right.
you touched on this a little bit, but this is just my therapist side coming out and might as well kind of incorporate some of the knowledge I paid a lot of money at grad school for
Uh,
these things.
right.
But yeah, emotional regulation just in general is kind of like the building block of eventually self reflection and figuring out even more things about yourself, but just being able to manage your emotions in social situations, right? Like when you're feeling angry, are we letting that show? Are we causing a scene in certain situations, or are we just like holding it in and knowing when it's socially acceptable to do whatever? And yes, there's times it's okay to cry. It's okay to do that. I'm not saying you have to hide all that in, but when you're at a restaurant, are you going to stand up and flip the table, or are you going to maybe just get up and walk out? That's a different scenario.
Maybe.
So that in general is kind of really great for journaling because for people who kind of go in and use it more as a diary. Today I did this and reflecting on your behaviors to understand like what was I feeling in that time and how did I let that feeling affect the way I acted. Which is essentially the model of therapy that I'm trained in is called cognitive behavioral therapy, CBT for short. I'm trained in CBT plus, which works for specifically anxiety, depression, and behavioral issues for kids. And then I'm also trained in trauma focused cognitive behavioral therapy for people who have extensive trauma backgrounds. So all the model in itself is pretty similar, but there's different tweaks depending on which ingredients we're going for. But yeah, cognitive in general is you're able to kind of the whole emotional regulation piece and be able to get your emotions in check and know how to properly manage your response to those feelings. Then taking it a step further and being able to kind of look inside and identify the thoughts that lead us to feel that way. So, what are those thoughts? A lot of we have thoughts every single day of our lives, every single second. Are those positive or are those negative? And being able to identify them, because they're automatic, and those thoughts kind of come into our brains in a way based on past experiences. Sometimes, for just an example, would be someone who's been in a car accident, right? Like in the future, they might be a little hesitant to get into a car accident. And so they might have thoughts of like, cars are dangerous. I'll never get into a car again. So it's, as a therapist, working with them, okay, like let's ask some questions. What evidence is there to support that? Could you possibly be wrong in this situation? Or have you ever been in a car before where it was safe? Kind of asking those questions to show that that thought isn't 100% accurate. And that's a good tool for journaling too, is, writing all your thoughts in the journal, like you said earlier, then walking away, coming back to it when maybe you're in a better, clear, leveled mind state, and looking at it and saying, okay, like, are there alternatives to this? Like, is this 100% true? What if I'm wrong in this scenario? And really kind of being able to, like, check yourself mentally. Positive coping is, once you're able to identify those negative thoughts, it'll increase your feeling and it will improve how you feel, because a negative thought leads to a negative feeling, which oftentimes leads to a negative or an unwanted behavior. So if you can go back to the thought and change the way you think, you're going to eventually change the way you feel, or at least feel a little bit better by modifying that, which is called cognitive restructuring. And then you're going to behave better or act better or have a more pleasant experience from all that. So that's the gist of it in a nutshell. But that's why journaling is such a good tool, because what we can do is it literally gives us a window into our brains. We're sometimes in the moment and we're feeling so infuriated by something, or we're feeling triggered in general. Our mind, we're not thinking clearly. We're not, being like, oh, let me take a step back now and reevaluate this. Like, it's hard. That's a really challenging thing for people to do. So journaling is a great tool for those learning how to get to that point, to kind of just take a step away, give yourself a couple of minutes to cool down, come back, and then look at it and say, all right, what's going on here? How can I fix this? How can I make it better for myself? And the more we do that, the more more better we become at training ourselves to kind of control our thoughts and have a more positive outlook just on life. So, yeah, that's kind of the whole purpose of journaling. But I think too, like you said before with prompts, like, there's a lot of really cool prompts I've seen over the last couple months, and especially this month with it being Mental Health Awareness Month. But, prompts are great because it helps you also, gratitude, help really, like, self-monitor. Are you meeting your goals? Are you setting short-term goals that are smart, achievable, measurable, realistic, and able to be actually completed? Are you starting small, making your way big with the goals? Just really, I'm trying to think too, like decision making in general, being able to kind of come to terms with a difficult decision. Journaling is a great way to get through that. And just also, like, having somewhere to vent, having somewhere to just get it all out and acknowledge your feelings and just say, all right, I'm pissed off right now. I'm going to vent and get it out. Just like a good crying session is, I think like that. There's so many great tools with journaling. I need to do more of it, personally.
It's hard. It's like, it's not easy. I was even, contemplating making like a whiteboard version of, the main prompt page, and just, leaving it. That way people can just have a little bit more fun with the drawing aspect of it. Mm-hmm. Or you could just write a word really big, or whatever the case may be. I don't know. But it's like so many ways. But like if you're not that type of person that journaling is not your thing, the beauty of this life is that there are a million ways to cope, right? And then within that, there are a million ways to cope in a good manner. You know, like
Yeah.
you don't always have to, jump on the negative side or substance or whatever the case may be, but you know, just think of something. Think of something that you can do to take your mind off, just to kind of decompress for a little bit.
Hmm. Absolutely. So, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop a comment. Um, but we're going to start to wrap it up, and I have a rapid fire round of questions I want to ask you. Fun questions, because we're going to stay away from mental health for the rapid fire round because we are also human beings and have interests and other things outside of mental health. So we're going to also. All right. First question: favorite basketball player
Of all time or right now?
all time?
All time. Kobe Bryant.
Okay. I have his shirt on. I have a in memory of Kobe shirt on today.
Yeah.
Billy Boy. Um, of current, who's your favorite current basketball player? If you don't say Matisse, I'm gonna just end this right now. I'm kidding.
Sorry, Matisse. No, my favorite right now is definitely Kyrie. He just, I don't know. He just gives me off so many vibes like reminiscent to Kobe's mentality and just the way he approaches the game from a strategical standpoint and just like knowing that you can understand your opponent by just studying film.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, next question. What's the best word to describe?
Hold up, I lost you.
Okay, are we back?
All right, yeah. What's the third question? Good.
What's the best word to describe yourself?
Outstanding.
Outstanding. That's true. I can vouch for that. What's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
I'm so literally vanilla in every sense of the word. If I'm feeling edgy, I'll go vanilla bean.
Yo,
Like,
Quinn Colin can hang out together. He likes mint chocolate chip too. Do you like mint chocolate chip ice cream or
I
not?
do, I do, I do, I
Okay,
do.
Elisa,
Yeah,
if you're watching this,
vanilla's the go-to
my
always.
manager hates mint chocolate chip ice cream. She thinks like people who enjoy mint chocolate chip are like the spawns of Satan. So I'm just
I'm sorry.
recruiting for the pro mint chip gang.
Mitch.
All right. What three songs would be the soundtrack to your life? That's not really a rapid fire question, but
uh, so I'd say That's Life by Frank Sinatra. I'd say um, hmm, I'd say Free by Denise Williams. And man, maybe Outstanding by Gunna. Got it. I gotta add that.
okay. Okay, I'll take it. I'll take it. Mine would definitely be like all Post Malone songs.
Hold
Yes,
up.
Ariel likes mint chip. Ariel, we're gonna eat mint chocolate chip for our sesh when we have that on the 22nd. No, not the 20. Is it the 22nd? I don't know.
Gotta have the mint chocolate.
The 29th. I'm so bad at dates. 29th. Okay. Mint chip club. And the last question is less rapid fire, more thoughtful. But what do you want to be known as or inspire, or what do you want? What message do you want people to think about you when like your name comes up in conversation?
Uh, I think ultimately, It's probably the same thing as like my personal thing. I just want to be able to leave this earth and think that I left something of value to humanity, in a sense, you know?
Mhm.
Something that's going to be here long after I'm gone. So I just want people to, I guess, think of me in that way, and I guess think of me in a way of, you know, he is what he is.
You
That's
left
it, you
better
know?
than you found it.
That's it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So we are going to, I guess, sign off. But
Right?
anyone wants to purchase a journal from Idle Hours, the link is in the description. Also, check Mentl.'s Instagram account. We will be sharing it on the page. And Amir, do you want to tell them what's gonna come out in like a couple minutes?
So on my website, I comprised a folder of downloadable content in a sense. So it's going to have a folder which holds quote unquote sesh sheets that are going to be good for you during this time. So go check those out. And I also designed 4 posters a couple months ago, just because. I guess like just in support of Pocketbook, but I just put those up as well. They're going to be on there for you to download, so you can get them printed, put in your house, or whatever the case is. So all that'll be up. We're also going to put the set sheets on my on the Idle Hours Instagram, so you can check them out there. But yeah, that's what we're doing.
Very cool. Well, I'm sure I will see you soon once this whole quarantine situation ends or is over. We'll definitely be taking a trip to Philly, and I'll let you know whenever that is. But in the meantime, stay safe and stay
Yeah,
well,
you
and
too.
we'll be in touch. But thank you, and everyone go follow Amir. Look at the bio or description of this video and click the links. Follow him. Follow Idle Hours. He's a great person to be following and have on your feeds on social media. And that's all. All right. Bye, guys.
Later, guys.